Welcome back to the Spacey Tropics Review channel, where we try to review just a little bit of everything. So I was finally able to purchase my first ever Bowers & Wilkins product, and it happens to be the Bowers & Wilkins PX7 S2s. It's a premium quality headphone that, if not already, has taken my heart in the top spot for my number one premium headphone. Let's dive a little more deeper into it and get some of my thoughts. So first off, price. These headphones go for about $400 before tax, and let me tell you, they scream premium. I myself got the blue one, and I thought, premium headphone, super premium, Bowers & Wilkins, why not go ahead and get the most outrageous color you could possibly get. So here we are. So design-wise, you're looking at what I honestly think is a pretty good looking pair of headphones. Ear cups have a great, softly padded, well-made leatherette. The headband feels nice and sturdy with a really nice fabric material lining the top of the band and sides of the ear cup. Button layout, and yes, I said button layout, is pretty intuitive, with the main toggle button for play, pause, skip, etc. being made with a textured feel to it, and then the volume buttons are flanking it both up and down, and finally on top you have the toggle on-off switch, which also works as the Bluetooth pairing button. On the other ear cup, you have a programmable button which can work for either activating your active pass-through, or if you would like a voice assistant if you're into that. So I said the first line about the buttons the way I did only because I know there are some in the comment section right now, especially the Sony bros, who are going, capacitive buttons, capacitive touch buttons are the way of the future, and physical buttons are from the dinosaur age. And to that I say, yeah, come back to me when it's the dead of winter and you can't do anything on the side of your headphone with your capacitive buttons because your gloves just won't work. Connectivity wise, we're looking at Bluetooth 5.2 on board the Bowers & Wilkins PX7 S2s. Let's just call it the S2s for short. You can connect up to 2 devices at the same time with this, and I'll just show you a little bit of the app a little bit later, which displays which devices you're sort of connected to. Range anxiety with this thing is non-existent, as I was able to walk at least 50 feet away from my phone where I placed it and didn't really have any drop in signal. 2 other forms of connectivity here we have is both cables that come with the headphone. So first up, the Type-C to Type-C. Not only does this bad boy charge your headphones, it also passes through music. So it's a data transfer cable of its own, and to me, I think this is a mind-blowing feature. Why aren't more headphone companies, or why aren't more companies who make headphones doing this? Let me charge and listen. You can charge and listen via a speaker. Why not charge and listen via your headphones? I think mind-blowing. I love it. You also have a Type-C to headphone jack, so you can plug it into things with a 3.5 millimeter auxiliary port. Unfortunately, there's no auxiliary port on the actual headphones themselves. Everything goes through that Type-C port. And even more unfortunate, in order for you to use the headphones with the wired connection, the headphones have to be on. So they have to be charged and they have to be on. And unfortunately, if you are in a situation where all you have is a device with an auxiliary port, not a device with a Type-C connection, you're kind of in for it. I will say this though, for iPad users, especially iPad Pro users, you can definitely charge your headphone off of this, charge your headphone off the iPad, and still listen to music at the same time. It's quite cool, to be honest, to do this off an iPad, so you do have that option. But again, yeah, it's a little 50-50 when it comes to these cables and the fact that the headphone has to be on. Speaking of charging, battery life on the S2s is phenomenal. You get 30 hours with active noise cancellation on, or 30 plus hours with active noise cancellation completely off. I think that's phenomenal. It's way better than my Bose NC8 700s. And if you run out of juice for whatever reason, This does have a quick charge feature, and the quick charge feature is 15 minutes gives you 7, and hear me right, not 3, not 4, not 5, 7 full hours of playback. Again, another mind-blowing thing for me when it comes to these headphones, and I love that. 15 minutes for 7 hours, that's a big deal, especially on a long, for example, maybe subway ride home when you're commuting in New York, for example. Now, use these headphones while connected to a computer with the Type-C to Type-C cable, and you have now unlocked God-tier battery life, and you will never run out of battery, period. But be warned, I do have a strong feeling. I have not tested this yet, but I do have a strong feeling that if you do the Type-C to Type-C and you're listening to music on above 50% for prolonged periods of time, the headphone might get warm. I could see that happening. Not hot, but it could be getting a little bit warm. So just bear that in mind. Also, one thing of note, overall fit, big head approved. Now, sound. Unfortunately, buying those binaural ear thingamabob microphones doesn't come cheap. So I will not be able to provide you guys with a sound test of these headphones. However, I do hope that you can take my word for it as I'm about to say it right now. First things first, let's dive into a little bit of the tech specs that is in regards to these headphones. So the type of codecs that you have with the S2s are aptX, aptX HD, and aptX Adaptive. You can only use aptX on Android phones, unfortunately, not on your iPhone, but it's still rocking SBC and AAC for all your Apple needs, so to speak. This thing does come with two 40mm drivers. It's a bit less compared to the 43mm drivers from its predecessor, the PX7s. But don't let that deter you. The sound is still pretty awesome, as I'll get into it in a quick second. Last but not least, this thing does have a total of 6 microphones. 4 microphones are dedicated to the active noise cancellation, and 2 of them are dedicated to the active pass-through, so you can listen to things or just use it as an overall, answering and hanging up on calls and stuff like that. Now, in terms of the tech specs, what does this mean? It means jack diddly squat to the average person. I know it's just for the tech nerds like me that want to hear a little bit more about the headphone. Nonetheless, I will tell you this, in general, the PX7 S2s are clean and crisp. It is a superb sound that comes from these headphones, especially with the angled drivers that these headphones come with. Normally, the drivers are just straight and flush towards the ear, but Bowers & Wilkins sort of angles it so that it, for whatever reason, I guess, gives a better in-depth sound when you're listening to it. And believe me, it works. It really does work. It's not a gimmick. It's fantastic. These headphones get as loud as I need it to. The bass is awesome. The mids, albeit sometimes maybe a little bit extra volume could help, is pretty much pronounced and there for majority of the songs that I've listened to. And the highs are just on point for me. Holy crap, they're on point. If you desire a little bit more, as I'll get into just a hair in the app just now, the app does come with a 2-band EQ for treble and bass manipulation. And like I said, I'll get into that into a few seconds. Some of the genres I've tested with this headphone are hip-hop, R&B, EDM, some country, a little bit of alternative rock, some pop music, and a few other genres, etc. All of them sounded superb to me. I really do like the sound that's coming from these headphones. I really do. I compared it to my Bose NC8700s. I compared it to my Sony WH-1000XM3s. And I also compared it to my V-Motor Crossfade 2 wireless. All 3 of those headphones, and personally, this is at the top for me right now. It's at the very high top for me right now. So real quick, I want to talk about the app and active noise cancellation on this headphone. Let's start with the active noise cancellation first. It's quick and it's brief. I don't think these are the strongest noise cancellation headphones that you could buy. Hands down, they're not the strongest. The noise cancellation is pretty good. It definitely blocks out quite a majority of the noise coming from the outside, but unfortunately, it's just not reaching the levels of the Bose. It's not reaching the levels of the Sonys, and yeah, unfortunately, it's not even reaching the levels of my AirPods Pro. It kind of sucks. It kind of sucks for a $400 headphone. I wouldn't necessarily call it a con because, again, it is still pretty good and it does work quite well, but it's just not to that level that we've been given with the likes of Bose and Sony and so on and so forth. As far as the app is concerned, let's just dive into that really quick. So, as I said before, there is a 2-band EQ, as you can see right here. There's a spot to see what devices the headphone is connected to, because again, remember, this does have Bluetooth 5.2, and you can connect up to 2 devices at the same time to it, and this is where you'll see it. The toggle is up top for the active noise cancellation, going to the pass-through, going to just no noise cancellation in general, and also the app provides firmware updates for the headphone. Overall, it's a clean and simple looking app, and it's quite easy to use out of the box for almost anyone, in my opinion. Now, let's get to the cons. This is where it's going to make or break people, and unfortunately, there are some very heavy-hitting cons that might just break it for some, but stick around to the end of the video and hear my overall verdict. First con I'd like to bring up is the active pass-through. Unfortunately, I think this is probably the worst, if not most unusable, active pass-through that I have ever heard. So the problem is that if you have these headphones anywhere above 20% volume, you're not going to hear anything. You're not going to hear anything from outside, period. Everything's going to come in quite muffled when you have it that low volume, and raise it up to 50% and you're practically asking just not to hear anything at that point. The active pass-through is not good. I'm praying that Bowers & Wilkins maybe releases a firmware update. Maybe a firmware update can fix this. And if it can, great, perfect. If not, well, yeah, then it's not good. Second thing that I think is not good, and again, this is a $400 headphone, so you would think these kinks would have been ironed out, but unfortunately is the wear sensor. So when you take off the headphones, there is a feature where the music will pause. Now, unfortunately, if you take off the headphones, it takes at least anywhere from maybe 1 to 3 seconds. Matter of fact, majority of the time it's about 3 seconds before the music actually pauses. And unfortunately, during one time when I was using them, it actually paused the music while it was on my head and then abruptly brought it back up, and I had the volume at like 85%. So you know that's a loud sound coming right back from just stopping and playing. And that's when I turned it off. You can turn off the wear sensor feature, but that kind of sucks. I know that the PX7s, the predecessor, did have this issue, and it was kind of fixed with a firmware update, so I'm hoping a firmware update comes for this to fix this as well. My third con, and it's not really a make or break thing, honestly, but it's something that I thought was kind of a not so nice thing to not include, was the pass-through when it comes to hooking up the cables. Now, I understand the Type-C to Type-C, but the Type-C to auxiliary, I was hoping for at least a pass-through to work with that, only because for whatever reason, let's say you need to use these headphones for a meeting, and your headphones are dead. Well, tough cookies, especially if your computer doesn't have a Type-C connection. You're just not going to be a part of that meeting because you're not going to hear anything unless you use your speakers on the computer. So I think that is a con, and I think that was something Bowers & Wilkins should have addressed before the release of this headphone. So let's wrap this up. Buy the PX7 S2s if it was on your bucket list to be bought. Yes, the cons are pretty strong, especially the first 2 cons, but to be quite honest with you, what do you buy a headphone for? You buy a headphone to listen to audio from some type of source, and that is one thing that headphones need to be good at, and this is a headphone that is good at that. It is good at audio playback. It sounds great. Everything's clean and crisp, like I said, and that does it for me. Active pass-through and wear sensor, I can look over that, especially for headphones that sound just as great as these. Now, if you want a feature-packed headphone, obviously you're not going to get that here. You just need to hop over to Sony land and, buy the XM5s. I think they're up to 5 now, with all of the, 1,000 band EQ and all the multi fantastic features and just, slap the side of your head just to get the pass-through thing. You know what I mean. If you want features, go for the Sonys. But if you want overall quality sound, these are definitely the headphone to get. I want to thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate you coming back to another video. We've crossed 1,300. We've crossed 1,300 subs on this channel, and I couldn't be any more happier. I know I've been gone for a little bit, but hopefully I'm going to be back now, trying to make a few more videos and put them out as soon as I can. And with that, I'd like to thank you guys again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.